I want to review the distributive property because we're going to use it as we move into equations. And so, you're gonna really need to be good at this. We talked about the fact that you're going to have to be able to compute or calculate with integers. Like your breathing. I mean, this is going to be a multi-layered thing. So you learned how to add and subtract with whole numbers. Now you're learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with integers. And now we're going to throw them all into different kinds of equations. And so at each level, we need to make sure that we're absolutely solid on what's going on. So in the distributive property, as you have seen in the iReady lessons you did, the distributive property has a doing and undoing. Just like adding is the doing and subtracting is the undoing. I'm finding that missing addend. Multiplying and dividing. Dividing is multiplying is the doing. Dividing is the undoing. It's the finding of the missing multiplier. It's working backwards. So adding moves forward, subtraction moves backward to find a missing piece. Multiplying moves forward, dividing moves backward, finding a missing piece. Well, the distributive property is very similar. There's this expanding, and then there's the factoring. And it all has uses when you start working with equations in algebra. So we want to make sure we understand what we're doing with numbers and then also with variables. So if I'm expanding this, I'm gonna write this expression. Say I have 2 times the quantity 4 plus 3, okay? So if I'm expanding that, I'm saying I'm multiplying that 2 times the 4, and I'm multiplying it times the 3. Okay, so then I would expand that. Now I'm going to 2 parentheses. And eventually you'll just go right to doing it. So this again then would be 8 plus 6, which would be 14. Okay, and you can see that up here, if I would have added 4 and 3, I would have gotten 7. And inside that parentheses, using order of operations, 7 times 2 is 14. I would get the same answer. And it might seem like a ridiculous thing to you to separate it. Why would you do that? But in the end, when you're working in algebra, you're going to see that this has a very specific purpose. Okay, now let's at factoring. So let's start with the one over there. I have 2 times 4 plus 2 times 3. Factoring means I take out the number that is the common factor. And so then I revert back to the initial, the one we started with in expanding. Okay, now it's not always going to be that clear. So factoring can be this. I can say I have I have 18 plus 24. I want to factor that. Okay, so I can do one of two things. I can say, okay, so let's see, what is the biggest number, the greatest common factor that goes into both of them? And I would find out that it is 6. So I would make this one 6 times 3, and I would make this one 6 times 4. Okay, and now I can see that I can take those 6's out. That is the common factor, 6, 3 plus 4. Okay, and if I that would be 6 times 7, which would be 42, which also this equals 42. Okay, and we're going to do this. This is, with numbers, but we also need to be able to do it with variables. So say I have this. I'm factoring out, I have 4x plus 8. And I want to factor that. So we know that this is 4 times x. And we know that 4 is also a factor of 8. Okay, so you can see now that we can take out that 4, okay, and that would be 4 times x plus 2. And you're going to have to be able to use variables also, because that is really the purpose of the distributive property. Okay, and if I'm looking at expanding, okay, I can say I have 4 times x plus 4 times 2, okay, and so that's going to give me 4x plus 8, okay, because I have 4 outside. Notice out here, I can expand it. I can have 4 times x and 4 times 2, and I'm going to get back to 4x plus 2. So you need to be fluid in being able to expand and factor. And here's the thing that I think confuses sometimes. Expanding means you're multiplying the number outside the parentheses times each of them. And eventually, you'll just go right to this one, okay? And it may seem smaller, but it actually is expanding. You're actually taking that 2 and you're distributing it. You're passing it out to each of the numbers inside the parentheses. Okay, so that's how it is considered expanding. You're expanding it because you're passing it out. If I distribute papers to everybody in the class, I'm passing them out. I'm distributing them. I'm expanding the amount of people that have them. Okay, when I collect them, I'm factoring them out. I'm taking them back from everybody. Okay, so that's kind of how I look at the distributive property. I'm factoring, I'm taking it back, or I'm passing it out, one or the other. And you're used to the word distributing. If I said to you, I'm going to distribute this test, you would know that you're each getting one. Okay, and so that would be similar. The very similar and aptly named property. I do want to note one more thing. If I had this 2 times 4 minus 3, okay, and I'm expanding it, that is going to be 2 times 4, nothing changes, but now this minus here, that minus goes here. It's now not a plus, it's a minus, okay? And then I would continue on with 2 times 3. So, you need to look for that sign inside the parentheses. Are we good there? Okay, I think that's enough. You're going to do some practice now, and hopefully what you did in 6th grade carries over, and we can start moving into variables in equations. Okay, good job.